Hi guys, Old Bull here. This is supposed to be the Fireside Chat, but I thought I'd throw in the curveball today. And we had Nicholas start this week, who is our new sort of like director of games, but
Hey, Nicholas.
doing all the production side of the gaming, making sure that the game developers are getting what they need to actually make the games. So that's his role. And so I thought I'd do a management interview because obviously Michael, the CEO, you've met before. You might not have met Tom. Tom's our COO. So his job is to just do the day-to-day running of the company and make sure that the staff have what they need and making sure the staff are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then Nicholas's job now is to make sure that the game devs are getting what they need and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I thought there's quite a, since we're coming into the banana zone sometime soon, I thought there's quite a good opportunity here to explain that we're not just a couple of 19-year-olds running this company. We've actually got some serious hitting experience that actually wakes up each day and organises what's going on. So, there's 2.5 million coins now in the crypto sphere, and approximately, let's say 6 to 8 thousand projects that are actually trying to build something, and we're in the top 1,000, which is pretty good considering where the small amount of money we've put into actually trying to spread the word, and we've put a large amount of money into actually doing what we said we were going to do. So today's just all about getting to know these three guys. I'm not going to do much of the talking. I'm going to be asking the questions. And then I think Michael's got a couple of questions. We'll see what happens and whether there's some other questions. But let's start with a quick fire round. I love these quick fire rounds. They're a bit of fun. And so I'll ask a question and then each of you just answer it and people get to know a little bit about you. So first question, who are you? Name, age, and where you live.
Mm. Well, I'll start. My name's Michael. I live in Sydney. My age is older than 50 and younger than 60. And I have a family.
You have a family.
And I'm married, yes.
Married with a family. Okay.
So, yeah. So, sorry, girls.
Yeah.
Taken.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking there's broken hearts just
Yes.
cascading across the world right now.
I know you were. I know you were.
I'm a little disappointed myself. Really? Okay, Tom.
Yeah, my name's Tom Griffin, just over 19. So we aren't 19-year-olds, just over 19. So that's, yep, not just young kids around here.
Just under 50?
Just under 50, yeah, that's pretty good ballpark. I am on the north side of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And marital status, well, that's whatever you want it to be. So we'll leave that one like that.
Okay. Would you say other?
No, that sounds a bit woke.
That sounds sketchy.
That's getting way too woke. Yeah, it does sound sketchy. No, I have 3 sons and they're legends.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So Nick, I am here here in Lennox Head on the east coast of Australia. Just for those who know Australia, I'm about 20 minutes from Byron Bay, which is a little, well, it used to be a bit of a hippie surf town, but it's no longer that. No, it did, yeah. And then I'm engaged with my first son on the way in the next month or two. So it's a very exciting time for the household here.
So, Nick, you do look like you just got out of the surf. Do you actually?
He does surf, yes.
You do.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a surfing dude.
Yeah. It's one of the favorite things to do for sure.
I think it's the only thing to do in Lennox Head, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty popular these days. There's a couple of hundred people in the water at any given time, really.
All right. So number 3, favorite games. What's your all-time favorite video game, and has it influenced anything you do now?
Well, I don't want to show my age, but it sort of started on those machines in the as you call them in Melbourne, milk bars, and delis, as we call them in Western Australia. And that would have been Galaga, I think, above Space Invaders. Yeah.
Shit. So the very first game.
Yeah, and then on.
Did you know Noah?
as I said, I am well, tears times for language. I'm a little bit older than 19 too. So, then I PC platform. I loved Wolfenstein. That was my favorite PC platform game, and it's always the first games you play that sort of are the most telling. The arcade game would be Daytona.
Oh yeah, we used
For
to play
sure,
that, didn't we?
Daytona. Let's play that a lot, and you will find me if I happen to be traveling and stumble across an arcade somewhere. You will find me on the Daytona machine still. Yep. On a console, it would be COD. I like shooting games.
Okay. All right, Tom.
This is a kind of an unusual one for me. Like I've not really been into gaming, which is pretty weird considering where I've ended up. But having said that, I used to live in Japan, and I was just fascinated by what was that?
Pachinko? Is that what it's called?
No, Pachinko. That's hilarious.
That's
but what's the Street Fighter? Street Fighter 2 was out, and crowds would gather around. So if you went to play, there's a big screen, and if you went into an arcade to play, the person winning would just sit there, and you got front up and you pay. It's like a pool game, right? And it was fascinating. These crowds would gather, and dudes would just flog each other for ages, and I'd obviously do terribly, but that was the first game I was into. Then later on, I completed Black Hawk Down on PC, and then I stopped because I realized it was very addictive for me. So I stopped for a long, long time. And in more recent times, I have just gotten back into it, and I got through God of War, which is absolutely fascinating. I just love that open world, just wandering around. And for me, I'm an outdoors person, so the landscape, climbing mountains, there's snow, there's forests, it's just fascinating. And I just started Horizon on the weekend too, and again, it's just mind-blowingly pretty. Like, it's beautiful. And in Horizon, there's the day cycle, so you'll get the sunsets and then the sunrises, and then you'll get rain come through, light rain, heavy rain. It's just it's very immersive. And so I guess I'm a bit of a gamer now.
You're gonna love Dogs of War.
Yeah, I know I am. I keep seeing the artwork. I keep
Mm-hmm.
seeing the artwork for that, and it just reminds me. I said to one of the artists just this week, I said he was designing a village, and I said I'd live there. It was epic.
I've done that in World of Warcraft. I've gone and got Amanda and said, "Have a look at this," and she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Look at this town. This town.
We put the house here with the east-facing aspect."
All right, Nicholas.
Yeah, cool. So for me, the first game was a SNES game called Lufia, which is like an RPG similar to Final Fantasy VII. So for me, I love character building. I love good storytelling. I'm a big book reader, and I love to just be captivated by a story. So that kind of was the entry into gaming for me. Very quickly, I was able to find myself in World of Warcraft, where I then spent the next 20 years. Fast forward 20 years, for me. And why I've kind of really fallen in love with Web3 gaming and how we can actually utilize the blockchain to really elevate these experiences comes from World of Warcraft, and all of the hours I spent in game, in professions, gathering up the items, forging items, etc., or even raiding and spending a whole lot of hours kind of to really obtain these epic weapons that have true value. And so for me, when I first heard of blockchain gaming, I just immediately said, "Yep, this is it." It makes perfect sense to really to take away that black market that exists in some of these games and actually have a true marketplace that reflects a real world economy of the hours spent by the gamer is just, it's exciting for me. And so here we are. That's kind of my story.
hobbies outside of work. We obviously work long hours, but what do we do when we're not working?
Mostly just work.
Yes, you do.
No, look, I do a lot of messing around with things at home, fixing things, building things, repairing things, renovating things, and have recently just got my little boat, so that's going to consume some of my time. Some would say too much of my time. My wife would say too much of my time.
I noticed how
And your money.
Hmm?
And your money.
Yes. Well, the real issue for me is that I ended up with 2 boats instead of 1.
I can relate.
Because
in another way.
the first boat needed things that were on the second boat. So I currently got to distill that down to just 1 boat.
Tom.
I like to spend a significant amount of time outdoors. A lot of that time's solo. Some of that time's with my kids and dogs or other hiking buddies. I just feel the need to sort of disconnect from all this good stuff that we do during the week. I need to remove myself from it regular intervals. I think Amanda's often referred to me as the remote worker, which is not only am I, we obviously all work remote in this company, but I'll travel to destinations sort of in the wilderness and then work from there for a week or so. I can sympathize with you, Michael. I had one Harley Davidson and then I needed a second Harley Davidson to swap parts from the first one onto. So but I will get rid of the first one. So that's another thing. I've kind of made that at in the near future because I need more ball coin. One of the things with the Harley is it's because I don't commute. I haven't commuted to work for years. I make a point of commuting to some location within sort of an hour and a half of home, and on the bike, take my laptop and work for half, 3/4 of a day from a cafe somewhere in a country town, and then sort of swing back on my lunch break. And it's just really, you get to talk to people and pat dogs and stuff like that you don't get to do.
Nice.
That's me.
Cool. Nicholas.
That's really cool. I really love that idea. For sure, disconnecting is really tough, especially when we're so ingrained and passionate about what we do. For me, it's pretty simple. I'm pretty big on training, and with the little son on the way and a partner who's also super into CrossFit. My morning is pretty much cemented. Just wake up, train, coffee, but just follow the same routine. I'm very, very routine orientated. But then I'd say also surfing for sure. So as soon as there's a good wave, I like to get away and get in the water. And that's similar to what Tom said, just being able to refresh and reset the mind, and that it just does it perfectly.
Have you done martial arts, Nicholas?
I haven't, but it's something that I really should want to do at some point. I think it would be perfect.
Definitely worth doing. I'm too old now, I think, but Michael, where did you get up to Taekwondo? You were...
I was teaching for a little while, so did a fair bit there.
You had first dan, didn't you? Black belt first dan. And Tom, you're third dan, is that right, in karate?
Yeah, that's right. That's why I originally lived in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yep. And Tom's father was a karate, or still is a karate instructor, I think.
Yeah, he's still got a dojo, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
I did some kickboxing, grappling. Mickey got me a personal trainer when I worked with Mickey in Perth. How many years ago that was? When we were 25, and we did 2 private lessons a week. Guy came to our office, and we kicked all the guys out of a room, and we had a big training room. We put the pads on the floor and kicked, rolled, and threw, and did all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to beat. I have done a bit of kickboxing just on the heavy bag, and there's something just really therapeutic about it. I
tell you what, if you ever want to make your wife smile, hold a pad for her. That makes your wife grin. he teaches her how to.
She's a CrossFitter. She'd knock you over.
It's because she's imagining she's hitting you, John.
I know. She's not imagining. She's actually doing it. She loves it.
I think that you guys will probably agree on this, and it's the same with surfing, Nick, because I lived in Noosa for 10 years. I've still got 7 surfboards in the garage. But there's something about the martial arts and the surfing that when you're on a wave, paddling for a wave, or getting punched in the face, you can't be anywhere else but right there.
Yeah.
Like that's where you are.
Yeah.
You can't be thinking about how bad this was or this friendship that's breaking or whatever it is. None of that exists. It's just this is where it's at, and I think that's super important as well. So we can tune out of that other stuff.
Well, you're focused right in, and I call it minute of the moment stuff. You're actually right in at the smallest part you can be. So, yeah, it's good. All right, dreams. If you could change one thing in the world today, what would it be?
I think for me, a bit more equality. I just see the world is a very unfair place, and you know, the divide between the haves and the have-nots continues to just grow, and it's not really necessary. There's enough for people to share, and for some reason, yeah, I suppose it's just human nature, greed, and yeah, it's just if you could wave a magic wand, that'd certainly be the thing that I would like to wave it for.
Cool. Tom?
It's a super interesting question, Jono, and I thought about this a little while before this call, and I thought really very similar to the lines of Michael. I thought that sort of thing. I was thinking more along the lines of, can we all just wake up tomorrow and realize that we all bleed red blood? Like that's simple as that. We're all the same. And I think Playable Games, and I've worked in other companies before where we have workers all around the globe, but we truly do. And to wake up and you know, we've got this Brazilian game developer who's really passionate about UFC. So he and I are talking back and forth. Did you see the fight on the weekend and all this sort of stuff? So, you know, there's just these connections across the globe, and they're teaching us that it doesn't matter if I can't speak his native tongue. Like we share something in common. Plus, he's a great guy. And there's plenty of other ones throughout the company as well that we banter about different things. So, yeah, is gaming bringing the world together?
Well, I mean, if you look at Jet's life, the majority of his friendships are his gaming guild. He literally spends hours a day playing with these people. And they've become like, they actually meet up every year. They have meetups where they all fly to Melbourne, and they all fly to, last year was Adelaide, this year was Melbourne. So like it's yeah, there's a lot to be said for gaming being a conduit to bring people together. But yeah. All right, Nicholas.
Yeah, certainly. I guess I would say just I would love a little more communication and a little more empathy. So I have always liked to think of myself as someone who's empathetic. I try to see, you know, both sides of the coin. And having just worked in a DAO for the better half of, you know, 2.5 years, where it was quite an intense place to work. You know, we were essentially one-to-one with the community, right in our face, right there in the Discord with us. You know, it can, you know, good and bad. There can be hostile times. There can be huge, you know, moments of celebration. But I would say, yeah, just people being a little bit more careful to kind of think critically around, you know, what challenges, you know, others might be facing, you know, before they maybe go on the attack so quickly. Yeah, just a bit of empathy.
So let's go to Michael. What's your background story? What's your personal journey? How did you find yourself in this world of crypto and gaming?
Well, the crypto and gaming bit's easy. That's your fault.
Sorry about that.
So, but I mean, I dabbled a little in crypto, but not to any degree. like most people probably have played around and bought something here or there. And as explained before, I'd been exposed to gaming, but not in the same way that you or the boys are. So yeah, what brought me here? Look, my journey is much and varied in terms of business. So I've done probably 50% of my career has been as an entrepreneur, and 50% of it has been working in corporate environments. And that sum total of all that experience, I guess, is what I bring to bear every day. And I'm here because you invited me. You wanted some experience.
Needed you would be more than just invited. I mean, if people don't know the story, it was my expertise is ideas, and I'm very good at coming up with ideas, but I'm not particularly great at making those ideas come together. And I'm very lucky that my wife Amanda is particularly good at that second part. And so as a team, when we run businesses together, Amanda's done like that hard, what I call grind work. She makes sure that the tax is paid, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the business that is over and beyond just ideas. And then there's stuff that has to be done, which I can do the stuff. But Michael's background allowed me to have the confidence that we wouldn't fuck up. Just a massive. I've been in situations before where my ideas are great, but I can't see the lay of the land properly or whatever. Can I just ask you, with like you said, a 50% entrepreneur and a 50% corporate, do you think they're diametrically opposed, or are they similar?
I don't think they're diametrically opposed. I think there's things that you learn as an entrepreneur that you don't as an employee of a large corporation, and vice versa. So I think they complement each other pretty well. And yeah, to be fair, I don't think. I mean, look, it's not the first time that you've invited me to be part of something that you've been doing, but I guess
say no. Yeah.
Well, I say no because maybe I don't see the vision that you see.
Yeah.
That might be one reason, and I also say no when I think I can't add value. So because I just think you don't want to be superfluous. You don't want to be someone who's just hanging off the edge of something. You want to be able to add value always, wherever you are.
Yep.
And in this instance, number one, I could see that what you had in mind was absolutely possible. It was a real opportunity. There was a gap. And I do believe that with the mindset that you have and the experience, that it's possible to bring that to life, so that, beliefs ticked. And secondly, I thought I could add value and assist and support.
All right. Second question, vision and strategy. As the CEO, you work pretty closely with me in planning and the strategy and positioning the company. What would you say, besides me, is the most difficult part of doing that?
I think it's lots of moving parts. As you've identified, and, the two guys who are on this call are part of that solution. There's a lot of moving parts, and they all need to come together. So, it's like trying to conduct an audience and get something that sounds good out the end of it, because when people are scattered to all ends of the earth, which they are, and you are legitimately a global business with, no real defined home space other than this screen that we're sitting on here right now, it's hard to make all that work in a synchronized fashion, and know that game development's happening as it should, blockchain stuff's happening as it should, marketing's happening as it should, financial controls are happening as they should be. So I think it's just difficult. That's what I see as the the biggest challenge, is trying to pull all that together. And ultimately, no one individual can do that. I think it's got to be a combination of people who are, you know, in their lane, doing their thing really well. You know, guys like Ben as the marketing director, working with Amanda and making sure that that's taken care of and everything's happening as it should be happening. Tom, you know, across the top of those operations, and obviously Nick making sure that, you know, the outcomes that we're getting in terms of that game development are on track.
All right. So you said before that when you saw this idea, you thought it was a good idea. So with crypto integration, why do you see crypto integration and gaming as something that's like a possibility and obviously something that could make money?
So yeah, I think what crypto does is you know, a number of things. Firstly, it gives you an opportunity to play in that space a little. So yeah, and we're not talking sheep stations, as we say in Australia. We're talking, you know, people having a little bit of a play with a few coin here. There's also an opportunity to be rewarded in a way that you're not rewarded in a typical game. In a typical game, oh yes, I won, great. You know, what we can do here is say, well, you won, but you actually won something, and you can do something with that. And that whole asset ownership, that whole developing your own base of gaming assets, I think that's a really good way to develop loyalty, develop that, you know, sort of repeat business that, you know, is so important. If you're going to build something, you need to build something that, and I won't use the word addictive because that's a negative word, but, you know, to build something where people have a buy-in and investment, and they you know, want to be in that space because they're being rewarded, or they're being able to buy things and do things with the crypto. And then, of course, you know, there's what people getting involved in crypto for, which is hopefully that this coin will be worth something one day. So, you know, and when I say it is worth something, but I mean worth lots one day.
Yeah, we want
Yeah,
more.
yeah. As the utility increases and the you know, the depth of the player base increases, and what we're really working on very, very hard, the actual games themselves are potentially something special.
Cool. All right, Tom. Background story. How'd you find yourself in the world of crypto and gaming?
I come from a background of advertising agencies in Brisbane. Well, Brisbane and nationally and internationally. And through that kind of journey, it evolved from managing a studio through to managing production and eventually into operations roles. I then did the jump over to a couple of digital agencies and was a digital producer there. Still had my finger in the operational stuff, but more so managing the development teams remotely. And I was made redundant earlier this year, and my manager from my last role saw the ad and said, "You would smash this." And I said, "Send that thing. What are you talking about? I'm not sure about this." And I read through it and went, "This is the most unusual thing I've ever seen." So yeah, I reached out to Amanda, and the rest is history. That's how I found myself here.
All right. So operational efficiency. As the COO, you're responsible for the smooth operation of all the staff, and so other than game devs. And since our whole team works remotely, what unique challenges do you face in coordinating the teams and to ensure that we actually can maintain operational efficiency?
I think it's important to actually meet people on the calls. And since the day I started, I've been doing the rounds all the way down to the game devs. I don't mean down to hierarchy. I mean all the way to the game
devs were out of your purview. So yeah,
that's exactly right.
You've actually done that after you've done your other work. So yeah.
That's right. I've decided that, and because I still do talk directly to a lot of the game devs, not necessarily from the perspective of the way Nick would, but there's often questions about, you know, all sorts of things, you know, annual leave or whatever HR related stuff. And so I made a point of catching up with these people individually. And I mean, that's how I found out that developer was into the UFC, and I've got stories about other people. And it's because I think we do work remotely, but it's pretty easy to build rapport as long as you're just not typing in Discord. If you're jumping on calls and hearing people out, and quite often, you know, even Jet or on Monday, Samuel pinged me and said, "Hey, we haven't spoken for a while. Can we jump on a call?" I said, "Absolutely, yeah." And we, you know, talked for half an hour, 40 minutes or something, and caught up. And it just makes people remember that there's humans at the end of the Discord chat, and that we are all equally invested in the success of the business, and that there's a heck of a lot of good people in the company. I think it's as simple as that. Just connecting and making sure that we keep that communication. You know, Nick mentioned it earlier on a different topic, but it's still relevant. Keeping that communication is important.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really important aspect of what we're doing, and that is that remote work, by its definition, is remote. And so it sounds great, but it actually can be quite lonely. I'm lucky that I work in the same household as my wife and one of the other founders, Jet, and that I have times where we can just go through and talk about something on the couch, and that's actually more beneficial than like talking on a phone call. So when Michael comes to visit in Dubai, we get more done sometimes in that couple of hours over lunch than we would in, you know, several hours on phone calls and backwards and forwards. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good insight, that to overcome the key problem of the remote is to make sure you maintain relationship.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So scalability, with the rapid growth in both crypto and gaming, how do you plan to scale operations without compromising the quality that you're currently delivering?
That's a great question, because if you look at any sort of civilization in the history of mankind, that it always reaches a peak, and then it's that growth is too quickly, too soon. I've seen it in many agencies I worked in. I think I've got some kind of a world record of how many times I've been made redundant, and that ebbs and flows. And it was never performance related or HR related, just for the record. I can get.
But that's agency world, though.
Exactly right.
That's
so there's a new client, hire.
Yep.
They lose a big client, 25 people go in one go. So it's I think it needs to be. I think you need to grow at a rate that is sustainable. I think that's super important. And I think you need to pump the brakes and make sure that they're quality hires. And you'll notice, Jono, since I've come on board, that we've gone from, I might be pulling back the curtain a little bit here, but I think that's okay. We've gone from kind of a manager hiring people, interviewing and hiring, and you perhaps have never not meeting your employees, through to a system now where they're grilled from a technical perspective, and then they still have to they still have to meet the founders and pass the vibe check and all that sort of thing. So we've kind of, and that's essentially the third interview, because the first one is even establishing if they're the right fit.
Yeah, so you do the first interview, then you get the team that they're going to work with to interview them, and then you bring them to us, the founders. And so that was something you implemented, which I thought at the time was, oh gosh, it's a bit cumbersome. But I can see by doing it several times now that it's really getting good results, because we get a chance to tell them who we are too. And sometimes that can be a bit shocking, because we're not your like, obviously being a family business, that's, you know, you've got to understand what that means, and we believe that brings a lot of good things to the table, but you you're still always going to have to, when you're dealing with a family business, you've got a group at the top that are pretty tight. And
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's much harder to muscle the top that you can sometimes when you're just dealing with an individual. So,
well, that's cool to hear that you guys are, seeing the benefits of that, because I still stand by that. It's super important, and that's what I meant about pump the brakes. Does it take longer to do it that way? Absolutely, it does. Does it mean that we get a hire like Nick that we know is gonna kick it? Yeah, that's what happens. Nick's one of my proudest achievements.
We'll hold you to that, Tom.
We're on it. Don't you worry.
All right, so over to Nick. Background story, how you came. Well, you've come to us from Illuvium, which is, well, I won't use the word competitor because they're old school compared to us, but they've certainly established. They've been through a whole cycle, yeah.
Yep.
So you've come from Illuvium. Maybe touch on that and just share some of the experience you've had there, and then maybe why you stepped across to when you saw this ad, what happened there, and because obviously that's not a bad job.
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, sure. So I guess more generally, my past experiences, as I think I mentioned previously, 12 years in IT development, integration, tech sales, that type of stuff. I've been blessed by working for some amazing teams and amazing bosses. Pretty early on in my career, I had a couple of really good, business leaders that really showed me kind of the value of work ethic. I had a couple that really just tremendous, the amount of work ethic and the output and the value that they saw off the back of that, and that really inspired me early on, which is really cool. More recently, obviously, falling in love with crypto and macroeconomics, that type of thing. I'm kind of I've truly fallen in love with crypto and the idea that we can kind of break away from I guess says centralized banking and all sorts of different stuff if I don't go too deep into that. When I met the guys at Illuvium, it was the perfect harmony all coming together of 30 years as a gamer and really kind of enjoying that storytelling and the flexibility of the world building that you can do in games. As I said previously, really I'm a big reader. I love fantasy, and building games allows you to just go wild and create amazing universes. So obviously 30 years as a gamer, 7 or so years in crypto, and really falling in love with blockchain tech. I managed to kind of get that interview with the boys at Illuvium, and for me, I was sold. The vision makes perfect sense to me. I'm a big believer in ownership and being able to create those real world economies. You can just do so much more to elevate a game when you can introduce multiplayer and those economic aspects into the game, which just gets me really excited. We see aspects of that in Web 2 with things like EVE Online, but blockchain and ledger technology takes that to the next level. Yeah. So certainly that's how I got my start with the guys at Illuvium. As to why and how I've kind of transitioned across, for the past 2.5 years, we essentially went, and this is not just me, this is the entire team. We went hell for leather, 16-hour days for close to 3 or 4 years. Me myself, I was kind of in that production role, head of production role. So 2.5 years of 16, 18-hour days, and most of that as an Australian were typically late nights, so working through into early morning here in Australia was pretty rough. So come the end of it, and despite how passionate I am, and just starting to have a little family kind of growing, I kind of hit a wall, and I said, you know what, I need to take a moment to look after my health. I was pretty ruined at that time, and so I took a long stint of leave for about a month and a half to 2 months. Did a little bit of contracting, but when I saw the ad, I was refreshed. I'm ready to go, and my passion is building games, and so for me, coming across to Playable made a whole lot of sense. I love what they're doing with the games. I love the multiple genres that we're building in. And so it was a no-brainer, and I'm very much glad to be here. Cool.
All right, so bridging gaps. In your role as production manager, you serve as a bridge between the management team and the creative and technical game development teams. How do you ensure that the vision of the game aligns with the realities of production?
Yeah. So similar to Tom's answer, I would say the communication is number one. For me, and I kind of just alluded to it in my previous answer. I want to be living and breathing the job that I do. As I say, for me, life is essentially just work hard, train hard, and spend that time with the soon to be little fam. And yeah, for me, I've always found that just digging in and kind of becoming immersed in what I do, both it feels good because I'm getting that sense of satisfaction if you do a good job, but at the same time you really get the best of people. You over deliver and you can really extract kind of the best of everything. So as far as how that applies to the production role, it's just working systematically. So going through the development processes and being brutally regimented. So everything from receiving the brief and being able to turn those briefs into strong product requirements, to then making sure that those product requirements are correctly briefed into the teams and that all of the teams know exactly what they need to do. There's no confusion and they can work unencumbered and yeah, just eases the entire process. So if I'm up here doing my job correctly, it makes everyone's lives down the chain that much easier.
Well, I think that's really important, that the remote work aspect of everything that we do, everyone needs to know what is expected. And the more clear you can be with the expectations, and the more clear you can be with, I call it spreadsheeting, but like there's other words for it. But to be able to lay down, if you're building a game, there's literally thousands of parts to that, and you've got to. That can be daunting. So break it down. What are we building first? Okay, we're building the world. What's involved in building the world? These are the 12 parts of building the world. Each of those parts, what's involved in each of those parts. These are the 25 parts of number one. These are the 16 parts of number two. When you've spreadsheeted it all, then you can make people accountable. And when people are accountable and they say, okay, well, we think that's going to take 2 days, that's going to take 1 day, that's going to take 12 days. And so when you actually spreadsheet it all out properly and everyone knows what's expected of them, and then someone like yourself's in place to make sure that they know that they're expected to achieve this in this time, everything starts to level out a bit more easily. Whereas what we had, when we started 2 years ago, it was like we were dealing with young game dev teams that had no real experience in, the first game we bought was like, it was their first game. It was our first game. It was their first game. And now 2.5 years on, nearly 3 years on, I was saying to Jet the other day, holy shit, we know a lot. Compared to when you talk about you don't know what you don't know, back 3 years ago, there was stuff we just didn't know that would have been useful to know. And I smile whenever I see someone talk about a new gaming project just started. I just have a bit of a giggle inside that, people are going to lose a lot of money on a lot of those projects because it is just so hard to get right. And it takes so long to get all these dominoes lined up and not falling over and wrecking everything else around them before you can actually get the thing to play out the way it's supposed to.
And then you add blockchain into it.
Then you add blockchain, and you add a 4-year cycle that you got to get your timing right.
That's correct.
So you got to be ready for stuff.
That actually probably leads in really well, if I can interject with this question, because I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about now. Was as new kid on the block, I was going to ask Nick a couple of questions, and the first of those questions is that in that experience that you've had, the 3 key challenges you see, and I imagine they're probably pretty consistently challenging across wherever you are, but the key challenges that you've seen in your roles in game development.
Yeah, so as far as the 3 key challenges for myself, I'd say transforming ideas. So it's quite easy to have ideas, but being able to actually transform those ideas into really strict and strong product requirements that can then be actioned and kind of taken forward. So I think that's one thing that I've certainly noticed over the last couple of years is that, especially when you're working in a DAO, you're in the Discord every day and everyone has the best idea. So being able to...
Mic
Can I
off.
interject
Mic
again? The
feedback
bad
off.
news is that won't go away because you're sitting
Mic
in
on.
a room,
Mic
a virtual
feedback
room, with a guy
on.
who's always got ideas.
That's all right. That's all right. Bring it on. All good. So the other one is obviously this is kind of just like your bread and butter project management and delivery type stuff, but certainly good estimates on tasks. That's always a challenge for a project manager. Accurate reporting, and then obviously forecasting as well. So I'd say that that's a challenge. And then, yeah, I guess as we mentioned, community. So managing the community's expectations. Many crypto projects are web projects. You know, what we're doing is so much more complex in that we're working with Unreal, we're working with Unity. You know, we're trying to integrate Avalanche and you know, the decentralized ledgers into the mix. So I'd say that you know, when people are investing in tokens, you know, gaming has so much potential, but there is a little bit more lead time because you are building these beautiful experiences.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say managing those expectations is critical. Yeah.
I guess knowing those challenges, I was interested to see how you were going to approach them at Playable. You know, the ideas one where you can't fix that, Jono's just going to keep spitting them at you. So you can't fix that one.
Jet tries every day. Jet just, I'm halfway through a sentence and Jet just goes, no.
Stop.
That's his first try at trying to shut it down. And Amanda just giggles off to the side.
In our project management software, I actually made a list that just says ideas, and that's for Jono's crazy ideas. So they all go on the back burner.
That's funny. Yeah, so look, you know, you've got in a lot of ways an open remit because, I mean, we have a strength and a weakness. The strength is that we're, you know, as much as Jono spent a lot of time in games, he's not a developer, nor are the boys. So we don't come at this from a technical or game production perspective. I like to think that we come at it from a consumer orientation, which to me is always the strongest place to be in business anyhow. Think about it as I'm the end customer. What experience do I want here? What is this going to feel like? What's it going to look like? How is it going to add value to me in my life and what I do? So, you know, that means that from the point of view of what you want to do, you do have an open remit. You know, we would be the first to say, look, the reason we've got you here is because you know these challenges. You've seen these challenges, live these challenges. We're not going to tie you up in knots saying things like this is how we've always done it. We'll certainly share, again, as John said, the experience of what didn't work. But, you know, that's limited for us. So you will have seen so much more. So, yeah, just interested to get some perspective on, in addition to what you already mentioned earlier, some of those easy wins, perhaps, that we can have.
Yeah, certainly. So on point number one, which was kind of transforming the ideas into really actionable, you know, strong documentation. Yeah, it's exactly that. So really starting from scratch and building world-class documentation, because that informs everything else. So too many times have I been in businesses where they have all of the ideas and they go start briefing in work, go straight to the developer, straight to the designer, and it ends up just not working, and it just makes everyone's life more difficult, and it wastes a whole lot of money. So for me, I want to start from scratch. I want to turn the product briefs that we do have and just go to the nth degree, take it to world-class documentation, such that when we are briefing in the different teams, they can very quickly go to that source of truth, and they always understand a perfect, crystal clear picture of what they're building at any given time. So this may mean that we need to slow down for a second before we get in and start, you know, writing code. What it may mean is that we really understand the problem. We understand what the output looks like. Then we put together. We say, oh, this is actually quite a complex, you know, problem that we're looking to solve. Well, we're going to put together a little bit of a solution diagram or a bit of an architecture diagram that properly explains what we're looking to build here. And then we're going to get some feedback on that. And then we're going to get into the code. And so just following a more regimented process, I would say. Yeah.
Yep.
Backed
So-
by,
so
again, that really strong documentation, which I'm big on.
I'll distill that, if I can, to disciplined assessment, analysis, and business practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, Tom, first impressions. What was your first impression of Playable Games when you first looked at us? And how's it changed since you've joined us?
You sure you want the real answer?
Sure. Absolutely. Bring it on.
I was looking at it. I was similar to Michael said earlier. I was looking at it from the perspective of, can I add value to this? And when I did a lot of research through, I watched a lot of these videos. To be honest, I watched about half a dozen of the videos with you speaking with Amanda, some other interviews. I went through the website. I just checked everything out sort of methodically and made sure, for me, it had to be a, I think this probably term is overused, but a cultural fit. Like, I needed to know that I'm a straight shooter and I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'll just tell it like it is. If somebody is employing me to then, with the expectations that I'm going to do things the way they want me to do them, like Michael said earlier, oh, that's the way we've always done it, why would we change that? Well, isn't that precisely why you hire people with more skills than you in a particular area?
Yep.
Is to bring on that new methodology.
Yep.
Of course it is. And when I realized that you guys were really open and switched on in that respect, that's when I saw it as this is a great opportunity, because I know that anybody who is open to, has that mindset and is open to change, then we're going to have a great time. The whole family business thing, yeah, that was, I'm not going to lie, that was a red flag. I was like, what the heck's going on here? And that was another thing, but I was watching the videos. I stalked everybody online. I did my homework. Amanda was the first person that I met. I'm not sure if you know this, Jono, but we did something like, it's somewhere in the vicinity of 4 hours of calls, 3 to 4 hours of calls before I met anybody else. And that was really to make sure that we were aligned. And through that process, it was very clear to me that, and I asked Amanda straight up, am I going to get any, like, what's the story with your sons being involved? And what if I don't agree with something that your son says? Like, am I allowed to speak my mind? And every single answer was absolutely, please do, please. They need to hear from other people outside of their parents about the way that systems and operations run. So how's it changed? I don't think it really has changed, Jono, because with all of that upfront research and those conversations, I think it's exactly what I thought it would be. And if anything, you guys have welcomed me with, or how would you say it, wider open arms than I could have possibly imagined. So it's yeah, if anything, that might be the only thing that's changed, is you guys are very, very real people. This is not a piss in your pocket moment. I don't have to say this for, I just stop talking right now, but it's just, that's what stood out to me was, oh, hang on a second, these are real people. And I like working with real people. I like the fact that we can politely disagree on stuff, and I can say, I understand what you're saying, mate, but from my experience, XYZ. And then when I see you guys take a step back and think, and the cogs are turning, and then you come back and say, yeah, let's do it your way. Like, that to me is that doesn't say anything about me. That says something about the founders. Like, that says that you guys are open and willing to allow people to run their own race. And you're already doing it with Nick. And just anybody who's wondering, Nick started on Monday, as you pointed out, but we've been talking for a couple of weeks, and he's been so keen to hit the ground running that's why it feels like we've had him on board for a month already. So
I was laughing yesterday morning at 6 a.m. when I'm seeing Nick start to send the first round of messages at 6 a.m. I said to Amanda, turned to Amanda in bed and said, "Surf's not up today." So Nick's going to get the work done now. I'm doing my work now, just in case it comes up this afternoon.
Just in case it comes up this afternoon, that wind drops off.
No, it's good. And something that no one will know about is that when you Amanda got off the series of calls with you over a week or whatever, and said, "I found the guy to do the COO role." I said, "Great, let's get him on board." And she goes, "I can't." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Oh, he's told me to interview 2 other people before I'm allowed to hire him." And I said, "Well, that's fucking inconvenient." And so we had to go and interview 2 other people, and they were both great candidates, but there was just as you said, there's a synergy there, and there's got to be, like, I believe that, I mean, I come from a standpoint that if 2 managers always agree, one of them's unnecessary. I love that saying. Like, you know, it's like you should be putting people into your management team that do things slightly different to you. You've obviously got to have synergies. You can't have everyone hating each other and not getting along, but you've got to have difference of opinion as well, because that difference, and that's one of the things that works really well in a family business, is that in a family you're not afraid to let it out. And you know, Jet is really a solid counter to me, and like Amanda sort of rides the fence in between sometimes, but like, because she's always going to maintain a relationship with me on a marriage point of view. But Jet, being a son, and obviously young son, like 21 years old, 22 years old, he doesn't care. It's not in his purview to be worried about whether he's going to offend Dad. So he lets it out, and that's got some real good points.
Yeah, it does. Well. Yeah, there was a method to my madness when I said that to Amanda. I forgot about that. But yeah, I did. I said, what you need to do is talk to other people, because I don't want to be hired because we had a great chat. I want you to go and talk to other people and go, "Oh my gosh, he's definitely the right fit," rather than, you know, "Oh, he's really good." I just wanted her to talk to other people. So well, obviously it worked out well. So, but yeah, I think if nothing else, it would solidify everybody's decision, and that's what I wanted to happen.
Cool.
Risky, but it paid off.
Not too risky. It was good. It was a good call. All right. Any other questions we want to finish off with?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about innovation. I was thinking about, you know, Jono talks about the 2.5 million coins that are out there, of which about 2.457 are just a joke. And I was thinking about us and the place we are in this space, and, you know, how we define ourselves and how we're seen as different. And that's always the challenge when you're in a space that is all of a sudden become very popular, for all the wrong reasons, mind you. People aren't jumping into this area because it's a great business opportunity. That's not what they're about. Most of these people who are jumping into this space are here for easy money, or what they perceive to be as easy money. And I think, you know, that wasn't the case with Jono. I don't think he ever, you know, made me think that, oh, this is easy money, because it's not. Not if you're doing it properly. It's actually as hard as any business, and in a lot of ways, it's harder. So how have we sort of managed to, I guess, find a place where we are now regarded by many as being a legitimate opportunity, a real chance, a potential, you know, leader in the space? Heaven forbid that we would be that ambitious, but it's quite possible and it's quite feasible. And I think as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, our weakness is our strength, in that not coming from a game development space, we've just been able to look at this with unblinkered eyes, coming from a consumer-focused, business-oriented mindset where we go, okay, we're building a business in this space. What are the key things that we need to achieve and how do we do that? We're now in a space where these ideas can be actioned. This innovation can take place, and he's already doing it. He's coming back with ways of building games that I think probably people who have been in the space for 10 or 20 years haven't thought of, or perhaps because they just don't have that left of field thinking, and they're experienced in a certain direction. So I think it's a strength.
I think that's it. I mean, I think the longer someone's in, like, we're not in the 1800s anymore, where there's only one new invention every couple hundred years. We're in a time where there's new inventions every couple of weeks. Like, where you look at, like, if you ask the question right now, what did you think about the possibility of having robots working in your home would be 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. But if you ask the question now, what is the possibility of having a robot working in your home now? It's like it's going to be next year or the year after. Like it's like we've gone from pure sci-fi fantasy to now this is, we've got cars that can drive themselves. We've got, the whole industry of trucking is about to be upset. There's all this stuff coming. And I think one of the problems that happens with people is when you get locked into experience works best when there's no change. When you can just repeat the same thing over and over again and you're going to get the same result, you don't want to change that. That's great. But when there's change happening all the time, so go back 10 years ago when you had to build a world, you had to put each tuft of grass in by hand. All right?
Yeah.
Well, then someone invented a paintbrush where you can actually paint the grass, and you can actually use a paintbrush, and as you move the paintbrush around, the grass goes on. And now we've just hired a guy that's built a procedural engine which actually procedurally randomizes and places the grass for you. So we've actually hired him into the team, and he's bringing his program as part of the hire. And what I wanted was him to be able to teach our artists how to use it, because it's going to change. We're going to be able to build Dogs of War in a breakneck speed compared to what a game like Dogs of War would have been built in the past. So it's such a large map. We've got so much stuff to do. He's working on a program that does all the interiors. So we're going to have fully interiored homes, whereas normally there's a couple of cheats you use where they're half empty or it's deteriorated or whatever. So, so for me, and this is I'm just nearly finished a book I'm about to release called "What the Fuck Is Crypto," but I say that one of my kryptonite is that I don't stick to things for long periods of time. I want to move to the next project, the next idea, the next exciting thing. Bit like a moth flying towards the flame, probably. And I worked out years ago that I needed a partner who could help me grind out the hard yards required to get to that next level, because I understand that nothing happens instantly. That's, so you've got to try and balance out your own personality. But the opposite of that is true. In this fast-changing, rapidly evolving world, people like me can see possibilities, and I'm not hamstrung by that's not how it's done. So I just ask, well, how could it be done? Maybe there's an AI that can do it. We've just hired an AI guy purely for that reason, to put his brain onto that problem. What can I get an AI to do? And he's a guy who's just finished his master's degree, so he's young, flexible brain, able to get onto it. I'm conscious of your time, Tom, so let's wrap it up. Any closing messages from you guys?
Stay bullish.
All right. Great to have you on board, Nicholas. I'm sure this is being the first introduction. Actually, and Tom, this will be the first time people have probably seen you out in the wild. or out from under the desk. So it's great to have you on board, and I certainly have felt relieved, and I'm sure Michael does too, knowing that we've got stronger management in place that is going to help us achieve the goals that we want to achieve. So to everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Hope this has been informative and gives you just a little glimpse into the senior management team at Playable Games. I'm the Old Bull. Cheers,
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
See you guys.
guys.